Welcome to Glove Talk, your weekly news in boxing. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button. That said, let's get into the video. So we have Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin, and this is a great fight. This might be one of the biggest heavyweight fights that we're going to have so far this year. Obviously, we had, the rematch with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, but since then we haven't had a ton of big heavyweight fights, obviously, and this one is one I have been looking forward to. So I'm going to break down both fighters, talk about their pros, their cons, how I can see them winning, how I can see them losing, and then I'm going to give you my prediction at the end. So let's start with Alexander Povetkin. So right off the bat, he's very durable. He's a very durable fighter. We haven't seen him get knocked out almost at all in his career, generally speaking. He's very durable. He can take a punch even at his current age. We even saw, that at certain points, Joshua really had to catch him to knock him out. So we saw with Michael Hunter in the first couple rounds really looked like he maybe hurt Alexander Povetkin, and Povetkin was still able to weather the storm. His durability is something that he's gonna need in this fight. The next big thing with Alexander Povetkin is his timing. That's how he does so well as a smallish heavyweight. He times big guys. He looks at how they throw jabs, when they throw jabs, how they like to move, and he utilizes that lead left hook to come in and time them. He did this against Joshua. I don't know if everyone remembers from the very first round, he actually kind of stunned Joshua and wobbled him a little bit. And that was because he figured out the timing of Joshua. Now, Joshua did well and figured out how to kind of, fight back and kind of utilize his size to his advantage. But Povetkin definitely has a tendency to be able to figure out the timing, especially of big men, if they're predictable, and utilize that to his advantage. We started seeing him do that a little bit with Michael Hunter as well. So I expect him to try to figure out the pattern that Dillian Whyte's throwing and how he's throwing, how he likes to move, and then utilize that to his advantage. Next big thing for him is he has good knockout power. He has solid knockout power. He can wobble any heavyweight if he hits them right. We saw, obviously, we've all seen the Price knockout. That's a classic one. But I mean, like I said, with Anthony Joshua, we saw him wobble. Didn't knock him out, didn't probably hurt him too bad, but because of his timing, he will catch guys when they're off balance, when they're not expecting it. That's where he does his best work, and that power he has is true knockout power. He can knock guys out, especially with that lead left hook and his big overhand right. Expect him to throw that overhand right, especially if he's getting caught or if his head gets brought to the side or it's getting pushed around a little bit. He loves to throw that overhand right, has a lot of snap and power to it. So the downside with Povetkin, and I would say this is something that we could basically assume, and we've kind of seen a little bit, and this is where I'd be most concerned for him, is his gas tank. He's getting up there in age, and that's one of the first things to go as a heavyweight is your gas tank. Can you really fight a full 12 rounds? And that's where I could see if he gets into deeper waters, or if he has a moment where he gets excited and starts throwing at high volume. Does that affect him later down the line? I could certainly see him empty the gas tank at a certain point, and then later not being able to basically keep up with Dillian Whyte. So let's talk about Dillian Whyte now. Dillian Whyte is also a very durable fighter. We saw what happened with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker rocked him. I mean, absolutely rocked him. Chisora rocked Dillian Whyte. And Dillian Whyte both times was able to weather the storm. I think Dillian Whyte is very durable for the most part, but he has to be durable, and we'll talk about that in a minute. He does have a tendency to take one to get one, and that's something that comes with his style of kind of more a brawler style of boxing. The other thing I would say that he does pretty well is that he's able to utilize what works for him. He's not afraid to push guys around. He's strong in clinches and in close up. He's able to kind of muscle guys around. You saw that a little bit with Joseph Parker in particular. Now let's talk about some of the downsides of Dillian Whyte. Like I said, he does have a tendency to get into more of a brawler style, and when he does, he has a tendency to sometimes get a little bit wild. He starts throwing wild punches a little bit off balance. This is also kind of leads to him when he's kind of getting a little bit into rhythm. He's easy to be timed a little bit more. We saw Joseph Parker time him beautifully in the fight. And that can be something that Povetkin utilizes to his strength. Now, this is something I want to bring up, and I think we have to bring up with Dillian Whyte, and that is weight. We have to bring up weight because against Marius Whack, we saw him gas out terribly in that fight. Terribly. Now I'm going to show an image of him over here. This is just came out literally today, and this is Wednesday night, and it shows kind of the difference between Marius Whack compared to current. Now some people are saying, oh, he looks so great, he looks so good. Well, look at it, the way he's standing. You know, he doesn't look like he's standing upright like he is in the current one compared to the Marius Whack weigh-in. You know, I see with some lighting and some shading, you could probably make it look pretty much like it did for the current one compared to the Marius Whack one. I will believe it when I see it in terms of when he steps on the scale, because if you guys remember, everyone was talking about Andy Ruiz looking skinnier. I remember people like, oh, and Andy Ruiz looks great. He looks so good. He looks like he's in even better shape than he did the first time. And then he stood on the scale and everyone's like, oh my goodness. Nope. So I will believe it when I see it with Dillian Whyte when he steps on the scale. Now, I don't know how much we have to bring this up, but he did part ways with Tibbs, his trainer that he's had for a while. I don't know how much that's going to play a part. I mean, he's kind of at this point now where trainers they help motivate their second eyes, especially in the corner, to kind of give you tips and stuff like that. I don't know how much Dillian Whyte needs that, how much that's going to hurt him. A lot of people felt like when Tyson Fury left Ben Davidson and went to the Kronk camp, that was going to really affect him, and we saw that didn't affect him at all. I think when these guys get to a certain level, trainer can not play as big of a part sometimes, depending on the fighter. Not every fighter. Some fighters need it, need that person in the corner. Some people don't need it as much. I think that for Dillian Whyte, for this fight in particular, I don't see him needing kind of that security blanket so much, but I thought I'd bring it up because I know a lot of people have expressed concern possibly from him separating from Mark Tibbs. Now let's go into kind of how I think both guys can win and how I think the fight will actually go. So I think that if Alexander Povetkin can get his timing down and really start hammering Dillian Whyte, I could see Alexander Povetkin landing some big shots and hurting Dillian Whyte early. I think this is probably the first 6 rounds. I'm going to be on eggshells for Dillian Whyte, because if he gets caught and he gets hurt, Alexander Povetkin can finish guys with the best of them, and he is super timeable compared to other fighters. Alexander Povetkin, I expect to land some big shots early on. Dillian Whyte, if he did lose weight and he's in better shape than he was in the Marius Whack fight, he will have the advantage, because one of the things about him that we know for sure is his power carries. If you remember from the Chisora fight, I mean, he knocked Chisora out clean. I believe that was the 11th round. His power carries, and in my opinion, Dillian Whyte has the scariest lead left hook in all of boxing. I mean, he just puts guys to sleep with it. And I really think that he will catch Alexander Povetkin eventually, especially if he brings him into deeper waters. We saw the pace at which Michael Hunter made Povetkin fight at the beginning, and how eventually Hunter and Povetkin kind of slowed down later in that fight because both of them were starting to kind of gas out a little bit. If Whyte's in good shape and it doesn't allow Povetkin to time him the entire time and take cheap shots, kind of gets in there a little bit more, pushes the older fighter around a little bit more, makes him use more energy, I could see him taking him deep and utilizing that to his advantage. So with that said, I'm going to predict a late round stoppage in favor of Dillian Whyte. I think Povetkin is going to land something significant within the first 4 or 5 rounds on Dillian Whyte, and I think Povetkin might empty the gas tank to a certain degree at the beginning of the fight, hoping to knock out Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte will weather the storm, maybe even gets knocked down, and then later on Povetkin starts feeling that, and Dillian Whyte catches him with a left hook to stop him or just flat out knock him out. That's my prediction for this fight. If you enjoyed this video, thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.